Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our first NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. The New Orleans Pelicans, ravaged by injuries, back in action against Toronto at home Monday night. And Lenny, this is a team that's had no good breaks this year. They consistently have bad breaks with injuries. And again, no one's looking for excuses, but this is so difficult to overcome. Now you got Davis out again. You got Anderson out again. Holiday still out. What's next?
Locusts? I don't know. So it's at this point, I don't know. And at this point, the biggest question in my mind is, what do you do with Anthony Davis? This is a guy who's had 3 shoulder injuries, in the last month? And you have to wonder, is this coincidence? Is this a bigger problem? What is this? They're saying he's out 1 to 2 weeks. I really think for the long-term future of this franchise, and look, I understand everybody's getting injuries. Look, Oklahoma City's got Kevin Durant out. You look at Miami, the team the Pelicans just beat. Chris Bosh is out for the year with a very, unfortunate situation there. But it's time to think about the best interest of the future, and should you just shut Anthony Davis down for the year at this point rather than try to get him back for the last 3 to 4 weeks of a season that perhaps isn't going to end up in the playoffs anyway.
And then, of course, Ryan Anderson being out, you're talking about 2 players that play the same position. So you're lacking a 4, if you will. Now you're going to have to play smaller at forward or play bigger and play a couple of centers at the same time, which creates some matchup issues.
It does. It gives you the depending on who you're playing, it gives you that inability maybe to defend that stretch 4. If you've got Ashik and Jints on the floor at the same time, that does present some matchup problems for you. It's going to, on the other end, it does create matchup problems, for the other team. But these are not 2 big scoring type of players. Although, give Jints a credit. When Davis has been hurt and he's gotten more minutes, he has stepped up and played better given that opportunity.
Sticking with basketball over the weekend, LSU got back on track with a win over Florida. They got Auburn going on here this evening. And, of course, Tulane, they played well, lost at UConn, the defending national champion. And the Tulane women, they've got a pretty tall task, too.
Yeah, Tulane women start tonight. Tulane women, UConn, Devlin Fieldhouse. I'll be interested to see the crowd for that this evening. It's unfortunate, although with some of the cancellations, and you can read about some of the postponements on the high school front, sticking with the basketball theme, with a lot of girls basketball playoff games getting postponed this evening because of the weather in North Louisiana. It would have been nice to see this game played on a night when it wasn't such a big night in girls basketball, where all of the marquee teams are playing. Now you've got some postponements this evening. Maybe that gives some of those that are really interested in girls and women's basketball to be able to come out to this game. Be interested to see what the crowd is there. And back on the men's college front, LSU still hovering on that bubble. You mentioned Auburn. That game Tuesday night at Auburn. A big game on Saturday at home against Ole Miss, and that could be a game that you're talking about another team there that's sitting on that NCAA tournament bubble, much like when they faced A&M a week ago and couldn't win that game.
College baseball, good week for LSU, Tulane, and UNO over the weekend, as all 3 swept the weekends. UNO against different teams, and of course LSU against Boston College, Tulane against San Francisco. Hunter Williams, long home runs. Tulane wins close games, and that's becoming a pattern. And that, to me, so far, is the story amongst the 3. LSU's where you expect them to be. UNO is getting there. Tulane may be ahead of schedule.
Maybe. And, this reminds me, and I'll have the story later this week on SportsNOLA.com, but, I was a student in 1987 when Tulane got off to one of these similar type starts, winning a lot of games in the last at bat. And I mean, it was unbelievable. And it's much like what you're seeing of this 2015 Tulane team this year. And that ability to win games late. Tulane's already won 3 games this year where they were trailing going into the 9th inning. They won 2 games total like that the last 2 years. That breeds confidence. And we've seen the confidence talk in preseason with this team, and it's now showing itself on the field. And, kudos to David Pierce and his staff for what they've done.
Very much so. They've done a great job, and we look forward to seeing where it takes them ultimately. High school sports, it's a crazy time right now. Boys playoff brackets released earlier today on Monday. Girls, of course, in the midst of their playoffs, continuing tonight as we speak. Soccer championship set for this week at Tag Gormley Stadium. Wrestling championships decided this past weekend in Kenner. Kudos to Brother Martin on the Division I side for winning a 4th straight state title. Track and field, kudos to John Curtis for winning a 5th straight indoor track and field championship in Baton Rouge.
Yep, a lot of winners, and a lot more winners coming this week with a lot of Southeast Louisiana teams in the soccer championships. And a couple of particular kudos on the wrestling side. One to Paul Klein for his 4th individual title in 4 years, the Brother Martin wrestler who's headed to Arizona State. And you've got a very inspiring story about a young man visually impaired who competed in the state wrestling championship this weekend and was truly an inspiration for those who got to watch it.
Yeah, Johnny Tuss is his name, and you'll want to check it out. I know you will enjoy it. So, NFL Combine, of course, continuing in Indianapolis, and we'll talk more about the Saints later on. And by the way, check SportsNOLA.com for some upcoming games and the playoffs and different sports that you'll be able to watch here at SportsNOLA.com. We enjoy doing that. And don't forget, SportsNOLA TV, the final edition of the season, is Monday night, 6 p.m., WHNO TV 20. You won't want to miss it.
Yeah, it's a final week of February, final week of the season for SportsNOLA TV on Monday night. Also, the final edition of Prep Recruiting Insider coming up on Wednesday, where Tulane coach Curtis Johnson will be Rick and Renee's special guest.
Look forward to that. Lenny, it's always a pleasure. Have a great week.
All right, we'll see you later this week.
That's our first NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area, Southeast Louisiana, and into the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Have a great week, and God bless you. Thanks. Yeah, the